Just the east side of the rock now, we can put the anchor away. It allowed a little bit for wind and tide, and the length of the anchor rope. Look at what it lightens off a lot.
No gaff out.
Thank you.
Well, I'm finding the eels today.
Got him.
Some people say I'm very lucky to present sea fishing programs, and on a day like today, I'd have to agree with them. But that wasn't the case 4 weeks ago when we first put to sea to make this program. We left harbour in a force 5 with mild rain, thinking it was getting a bit touch and go. The other boat started to turn back, but within 2 hours at sea, we're in a force 7 gusting 8 with virtually horizontal rain, and the program had to go. But we still went fishing. And as with all those laws made by that chap called Sod, we caught a great range of eels with a top fish of 42 pounds. Over the last year, we've congered in various ways. We've congered from wrecks, and with Roger Herity, we've congered from the shore. But today we're on to my ultimate favourite. We're congering from the reef. Now there are 2 ways of going about this particular form of fishing. You can take off in small boats and fish inshore reefs 10 to 15 miles out. I recommend that you only do this in pairs. Now the reason being for this is because you can never actually legislate for the size of fish coming over the side. I recently heard a story of a charter skipper who put to sea with a bunch of Dutch anglers. Now, while bringing in a fish that later weighed in at 72 pounds, the gaff broke, and the skipper, in order to save the catch, grabbed the gaff head and pulled the fish over the side. Now, as he did this, the conger wrapped itself right round his middle, and with 3 foot of tail still to go, sent it up to the back of his head. One quick whap on the back of the skipper's nut drove his forehead onto the gunwale of the vessel and put him out cold. Now, the Dutch anglers didn't know how to operate VHF. They didn't know how to bypass the safety cutout system on the vessel. So all they could do was sit there and wait. Unfortunately, the skipper eventually came round, but not for 2 hours. As I've said before, you can't legislate for size, so only go to sea in pairs. Now, the other way of going about this form of fishing is to go out formally on a charter fishing boat, preferably with a few friends. There's a lot of bad stories going around recently of charter skippers who've been going to sea in the wrong conditions and the wrong tides to fish for conger. That's a shame. They have to make a living, but it doesn't do their reputations any good. However, there are some that I've fished with constantly over the last few years. Firstly for film, and secondly for my private angling. So I'd like to name those, and at least it'll give you a starting point of skippers you can turn to see if they're available for the dates you would like. All of these skippers as well will advise you as to what appropriate tides and dates they have to make it possibly a very successful conger fishing trip for you. Out of Minehead, you have Mike Dyer aboard Caimalinos. Dartmouth, you have Lloyd Saunders, Salt Wind of Dart, current joint record holder, high-tech vessel, very experienced. Plymouth has to be Bill Warner and the Mistress. He's a fanatic and a tremendous reputation for his eel work. Excellent man to go angling with.
Okay,
and last but by no means least is up-and-coming conger star Tim Courtis, Polperro in Cornwall. Traditional boat, little different, not a high-tech vessel. Great way to go to sea. That's enough yabba for the time being. It's time to head out for the first rendezvous with the mackerel. Of course, a mill pond out here today, isn't it? Look at that, never perfect. Sorry?
I said, never ought to be allowed to get
No, it's not on. Oh, right. Well, as has been said on many a programme, the first task in conger fishing is to find your bait. And as usual, the primary one is mackerel. Now, these mackerel are a good size, not too big, will do the job nicely. As you bring your bait, your new fish over the side, got one foul hooked there, always take hold of your weight in order that it isn't swinging around inside the boat. Gives the skipper some control. He's got to unhook maybe 100 fish, doesn't want to constantly lacerate his fingers in the process. These lures came into effect a couple of years ago. They're called flapjack lures, and they've got an effective killing rate of about 10 to 1 over feathers. I usually string 2 sets together, giving me 6, which makes a very manageable length on a 6 to 7 foot boat rod.
Good sort of 15 to 20 feet down, I would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Very shallow, almost right under the
Not at all.
boat.
Nice sized fish. The first thing to establish really is at what depth the mackerel are shoaling. Usually it's comparatively shallow because then the sunlight can reflect off your lures. If you allow the weight to sink and then raise the rod in rapid jerky movements, predatory fish like the mackerel is highly attracted to the lure.
Sometimes they give you a little bit of a flip before it hits the water, so you get a nice stream of bubbles going down with the feathers as well, especially when they're very shallow. Straight in. This is brilliant.
Mr. Herity is out mackereling me today.
Not with your super
On my
duper
super
lures.
flapjack
How could
lures.
anyone outfish you on those super duper flapjack lures?
Doink. The depth at which the fish are active can change as well. Roger and I are pulling these at approximately 40 feet.
About 40 feet or so.
And Paul on the other side of the boat is catching nigh on the bottom. As I say, control the weight. Give the skipper every assistance.
180, is it? The bottom?
Big dollop of air.
Fair depth of water, isn't it?
Down we go again. It's not unusual when lure fishing like this to pick up a few herring or even a few lance. Or launce, as Roger would say. Would you say launce?
Launce. Yeah, launce.
Large sand eel.
Sand eels of the greater variety. A bit better.
Paul lands his tea. Peter doing a consistent job on the end. With 4 of you mackereling. There's 24 hooks in the water. Usually takes only about 20 minutes to get enough bait in to last you for the day. Oh, I've blanked on that run.
It looks like I've got a string full here.
Yeah, and mine. There we are,
Right,
let you go.
that'll do us. Plenty of bait. We've got about 40 minutes to steam if you like
Good.
to wind them in.
Great. A little bit better size there. Very successful little session there, wasn't it?
I do like mackerel fishing.
So do I. Where would we be without the humble mackerel for bait?
Use scissors, quite cheap. That's right, yeah.
I knew there was something missing in this film.
Oh, great. No more jokes. No more jokes. Actually, you can have 1 joke per fish.
One joke, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to think of about 40 jokes today then.
Major advantage, really, of a traditional boat, isn't it? A mizzen sail.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I must admit, it makes it a heck of a lot more comfortable at sea.
comfort is, yeah, it keeps its nose into the wind, keeps you in position over the rocks or reef, wherever it is you're fishing on. Ideal. Don't see many mizens around nowadays, actually.
You don't? No. You got the facility for one on your small boat?
I have, actually, yeah. The sail I had on it, I used to use it quite a lot at one time. The sail sort of fell apart after a while, being an old sort of canvas type.
Yeah.
And I haven't bothered to replace it, but now that you've mentioned it, I must make an effort to replace it.
A couple of Sainsbury's bag and a bit of super glue.
But it does definitely help to keep your nose into the wind. So it stops that sort of, I mean, when you're sort of thrown back fishing over the mud, the last thing you want is for your gear to be sort of dragging over the mud.
Yeah.
So if you can stay in one place, it's ideal, really.
The whole basis of using timber on a boat, it's a much more stable platform, isn't it, anyway,
Yes,
at the end of the day. I love these new lock-ins and the big vessels, but they can be a little bit bouncy if you get some chop.
Yeah. They get very affected by the wind. They skitter across the top of the surface, whereas the wooden boat sits deep into it.
Yeah. Goes through. Seems to roll at a more leisurely pace, so if you're going to puke, it's a much more dignified affair, isn't it?
It's much more dignified puke. Yeah.
We there, Tim?
Yes, we're almost there. We've just got to travel the length of the reef now. We've got ebb tide and easterly wind today, so we'll be anchoring the northeast corner of the reef, and that way the tide will take our baits, the scent from our baits, right down across the reef, so hopefully we'll attract the fish that's there towards the eastern end where we're anchored. You can see here the ground is just starting to rise. It'll actually come up to about 20 fathoms. The rock rises quite a long way from the seabed itself. But we don't want the high part of the rock at all. We want to get in the depths, right on the edge of the rock. Hopefully find a few congers and ling. This is the rock here. You can see we've just run up the edge of the rock, and now we're coming up on the sides of it. The top of the rock will actually come up to about the 20 fathom line here. There's the peak of the rock. What we want to do is actually anchor in the depths here, on around about the 30 fathom line. So now we're going to motor up head to wind and drop the anchor away about 50 or 60 yards the east side of the rock, and then we can drop back with the wind and tide. When we start to rise the rock on the echo sounder, then we can make the anchor fast and start fishing. Okay, we're just the east side of the rock now. We can put the anchor away. We've allowed a little bit for wind and tide and the length of the anchor rope. Good weighted chain will stop the anchor from jumping out. Hopefully.
So anchoring up is a little bit more than just throwing a lump of weight on the bottom, Tim. What are you up to?
Well, we've actually anchored to the east side of the rock where we want to go. Now we've got to watch the echo sounder as we pay the line away. The anchor has got a fairly firm hold now, so as the rock rises on the echo sounder, then we can make it tight, we can make it fast.
So in rougher weather, do you play out more line?
Yes, in rough weather we use a lot longer rope then to prevent the anchor from tripping. Okay, you can start fishing now.
Well, we're now on the bottom after the first drop of the day. Conditions have changed substantially over the 10 miles or so that we've travelled since we were mackerel fishing. It's very easy to assume when there's no wind and everything's calm and tranquil on shore that all will be fine at sea. So the best thing to talk about initially, I think, would be clothing. Now, although tempted when it's flat calm on land to wear shorts and t-shirts, it's not recommended. However, you can put shorts and t-shirts on for the first layer. Then a good pair of trousers. I always run on lots of thinnish layers so I can peel off what I want and put on what I want at any stage of the game. In the middle of summer, and we're now into the latter part of June, a good set of waterproof trousers is important. then in winter you need to look at different sort of gear. And I usually wear Musto because I find it very warm and very effective in cold winds. You wear a different sort of outfit, don't you, Roger?
Yes, I do. I wear a Sunderland two-piece suit, waterproof trousers and jacket. Totally waterproof, totally windproof, rather expensive. But over the years, I've spent so much money on waterproof clothing, I've decided it's better to spend a lot of money buying a good set than to buy the cheaper sort of sets, which leak at the seams, and also they just don't seem to have the same waterproofness at all.
So, spend a decent amount of money on your gear, and it'll last a lifetime. In the meantime, I'll just bring in what I hope will be our first fish of the day.
I think I'm into one as well.
On your way. This is either a small eel or a relatively good ling.
Mine's small, whatever it is, but it's definitely not an eel.
I don't know, it could be an eel, still
Yeah,
banging.
Looks nice, doesn't it?
It's a good start. Me, I'm selfish. I always like the first fish of the day.
Mine's coming up quite easily, so I think mine's either a small ling or dogfish or something.
Here we go. Oh. He's making the rod bender. No. Good rod this, does the work for me. We'll talk about the right gear for the job in a little while. In the meantime, I'll pretend not to puff.
Oh, is that mine?
I think it's your ratchet, yeah.
Yeah. I'll give it plenty of... Ah, you're up. Where's it gone?
Coming through.
We've got a nice little ling.
Ling? Yeah.
Here we are. Okay, Tim.
Yeah.
Well done, small ling, first fish of the day.
I do like my ling, actually.
Beautiful to eat, aren't
Yeah,
they?
oh,
Really
wonderful
are.
fish. That's the bottom drawer of the freezer refilled.
Yeah.
I'll have that trace back, please, Mr. Courtis. Right, first ling of the day in. Second drop. I think Peter's on the go now.
Oh, good.
First conger of the day.
I think we'll have to return that one.
Right, that's the first ling and the first conger in the pot. Or should we say the ling is in the pot, but the conger is returned. All fish under 15 pounds go back in. At £7 a stone, you can hardly blame skippers for wanting to take in fish that they can dispose of that are at a sensible weight. So things are just slacked off for 20 seconds or so. Let's talk about the gear that we use for congering from the reef. Well, primarily, I'm a Daiwa man. Now, that's not because they pay me loads of money or anything like that. I don't get a bean. Chance would be a fine thing. Nor do I get any free tackle. Well, the odd little bit and piece, maybe. But for the tools that are used for fishing, I buy them myself. And there's two rods that I take out on a congering trip. 20 pound class boat rod for my mackerelling, pollocking, etc. And a 50 pound class rod, like this one, all roller, for my congering. This rod also doubles up for my sharking trips. The reel's a multiplier, Daiwa 450. Nice middle class, medium price reel. Very effective. I'm a great believer in star drag. I do like lever drag, but I'm far more comfortable and far more experienced with this kind of reel. The main line is £30 and it runs to a terminal rig that we'll have a close-up look at later. You fishing anything different from that, Roger?
Not really. I'm fishing a 50 pounds class rod. I prefer a rod with a lot of end action, very fast taper on the end. Give me a lot of power in the strike and also in the playing of the fish. I'm fishing a bit of 4.0 size reel. which I think is the size you need really. A metal spool reel capable of holding at least 200 yards of about 40 pounds line. I prefer to be slightly heavier than you.
It's probably because you are heavier than me.
Well, you never know what to expect on a reef, do you?
Nah.
I mean, who's to say the two largest fish I've ever seen have been taken from a reef? In fact, no more than 200 yards from the shore.
Well, I'm actually fishing Daiwa's yellow monofilament line. You're fishing a nice blue monofilament
Yes,
line.
nice blue monofilament line.
Roger
But,
doesn't approve of my bright yellow line down to the depths.
I don't,
but
don't like the look of that very much, to be honest.
the basic theory was one that was given to me. If all the lines get tangled up, cut everything but the yellow one.
Yeah.
And you should be all right.
Probably being a bit old-fashioned. It looks a bit sort of nauseating to me, but
All that commercial
probably
stuff
nothing
is
wrong with
orange,
it at
isn't
all.
it?
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah, bright,
Yeah.
bright orange. Yeah. I think we must emphasise a metal spool reel on the conger side, although you don't get many 4/0 size reels with plastic spools.
This is true.
I've seen an odd person at sea with a metal spool, and of course the crush of the line is such that it just explodes the plastic spool, and you have to sit there and watch everyone else fish for the rest of your day. Terminal tackle we can talk about later. We had a show later when the boat stops rocking around a little
When
bit.
we've stopped catching fish.
Yeah. I used to make my own rods actually. I was a great believer of making my own rods, but there's so many rods. Well, you just can't make one as good as the manufacturers are producing nowadays.
Production gear has come on a lot over the last few years. I really believe Daiwa are the leaders in the field now. I used to buy cheaper tackle in the early days, but I do think, having moved on, that it is does tend to be a false economy, and that if you believe you're going to be committed to your angling for some time to come, buy yourself a good Daiwa rod. It's going to last you. How old's that one that you've got there?
This one's about 10 years old, I would think. I won this in a competition actually.
Oh,
But,
even better then.
Having
isn't
said that, this is also a Daiwa rod, not for any particular reason. It just happens that it is, and it's a very trustworthy rod, good action, and I like it. You in again?
Possibly. Whoops. Yes, that's better.
What a man.
I'm in again. Now, unlike wreck fishing, on a reef, you leave the reel out of gear. And it's only because of the camera that I've had the ratchet off, because that's usually your first indication. It's also wise, really, with congering to keep your hand on the rod at all times. I hear lots of lovely stories. I've got a fish on here now, so I'm not going to play much, but lots of lovely stories from the freshwater boys who've come to see the first time, and they've got their rods casually over their shoulders like this, and whack, everything goes, and they've lost their fish of the day. And others who leave them on the gunnel. Personally, I've caught more fish consistently by concentrating on the job and being able to react quite quickly. This could be an eel. I have a feeling it's another ling.
It looks a slightly better one anyway.
Yeah, better than my last fish. Nice steady pressure on the rod. Rods can easily take the strain. Let them do the job. Fish will come up. Let it have line if it wants to.
See the nice action in that rod now. See 3/4 of the rod being fairly stiffish, with most of the action in the end quarter.
Now, to aid the recovery, a small investment but a worthwhile one, are these Eddystone butt pads. I think it's called a gimbal at the end of the rod, isn't it?
That's it, the gimbal, yeah.
So I can now have a rest. I'm exaggerating it a little bit for the fish of this size. I can rest my rod in my butt pad. Just take the strain off my arms a little. The golden rule on all charter boats is the skipper always gaffs the fish. So when you bring your fish to the surface, advise the skipper. Anyone who's on the ball is usually hanging over the side already, like ours here. But if everyone's on a run...
We're cold here,
Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Can you relax yours a minute, Paul? I shouldn't be far off. I'm up. Just hang on a minute, Paul.
Another small
We
eel.
won't put the gaff in.
My small eel in no gaff. We'll just release Paul's line.
Alright, the quickest and easiest way is if you just nip your trace off then.
Yeah.
Just cut that in.
Can you pass the knife, Paul?
Put that one more time again.
I'm doing this left-handed, so watch your fingers. Okay. One eel.
Yeah.
14,
12.
12. Always like to add a couple. One ling, one eel.
Was that ounces or pounds, Liam?
how many eels have you caught so far, Rog?
You know I always catch the big one
I
last.
know. In the last 10 minutes of the day. Tim, just drop that one back in front of Roger's rod, will you? Give the poor old chap a chance. Dangle your bait, Rog. Now!
Thank you.
One part of clothing that I missed out, sea boots. They really are a must. Try not to come to sea in trainers, because apart from the water, along with conger snot, it's a shoe killer, and it makes everything very slippery. And if sea boots are out of your budget, these are a good pair. They're sealed around the top. Then derries or wellies are really the order of the day. Send this one down. Catch a seagull. Well, the tide started to run a little bit now, so I wanted to up my weight from 8 to 12 ounces, and therefore this appears a good time to talk about the terminal tackle. As I said earlier, it's a 30-pound main line. Now, we have a variation on terminal rig here, as shown to me by Lloyd Saunders of Saltwind of Dart. I approve of this, I like it. We have a short trace of 100 to 150 pound monofilament. That's connected to the swivel on the main line. A bead to act as a stopper, a swivel with a link or a sliding weight carrier. Another bead connected to the swivel that does the terminal trace. This trace on the end can range from 18 inches, 2 foot, to that recommended by Tim Courtis here, we should be using 3 foot. I just happen to have this one on because I'm following my own bits and pieces at the moment. I think it's always wise whenever you go on into a new area or with a new skipper to ask him specifically what rigs are successful on his water. And if you've got any sense, act on what he says. So that's the basic rig, 30-pound main line, short trace for the weight to slide along. This means that when the conger thrashes around, the weight shock on the line won't break the line. And then an 18 inches to 3 foot long, 150-pound monofilament trace ending in an 8/0 hook. I've got a bait that I prepared earlier, so I'm going to smack this one on and throw it out, because you're probably getting fed up with the sound of my voice. We'll let Roger talk to you about bait preparation and the way he sees it to the bottom. Down you go.
One thing I would like to add about Liam's description of the end tackle, the size of the swivels. I prefer to use well, in fact, you've got to use at least a sort of 250 pounds breaking strength swivel. That doesn't mean necessarily that it has to be a very large one. People like Berkeley make medium-sized swivels with an exceedingly strong roller type action, and they'll certainly suffice for most conger fishing in the British Isles. Bait-wise, here we've got a nice tub of mackerel, which we feathered up earlier on. Most importantly, a nice sharp filleting knife. And we'll be looking at today the flapper bait, which is much used by congermen, and also using a straightforward fillet. Flapper, we take the mackerel, we insert the knife through the back of the head on the upper side of the backbone, cutting down towards the tail. Nice smooth action. You see the necessity for a sharp knife now. Turn the fish over, the same that size, feel for the backbone, slide the knife down the fillet, Take the backbone away from the two fillets. Cut free. And there we have it. Two nice sides to flap around in the tide. Load of guts inside, giving off a nice smell. Hook-wise penetration, you can either put it through the top of the head, which I prefer to do, coming out on the underside of the jaw, or underneath the jaw and out through the top. Doesn't make any difference. Preferably, I prefer to pierce the top of the head and bring the hook out through the jaw. That's the flapper. So we can find a decent sized one here. They're all small at the moment. Bit small for a fillet, really. That sort of size mackerel you'd be using whole, really. But we'll take a fillet off anyway. Once again, just in behind the fin at the back of the head, down towards the tail. Take off the skin on the end part of the tail there. Here's the tail. Take the skin right down to the tail because that piece is pretty tough there. And you can mount that on a trace. I'll take a trace a second. Pinch one of Liam's. If we take that, put the hook in the very tough part of the skin at the tail, pull it up over the eye of the hook, and that will stay in place nicely. nicely. We then slight kink in the bait, put the hook back in, slight kinks taken up by the bend in the hook, it leaves you a nice straight fillet of bait. If you want to add a little extra, you can put a couple of turns of cotton around the top there just to make sure it is sitting nice. That's a very small fillet of bait. I probably would use 2 fillets if I was using fillets at all. So we'll take that one off in a minute. I'm going to show the flapper, which is simply a matter of inserting the hook on the top of the head, bringing it out on the underside of the jaw, and there it is. Swivels we were talking about before, that is a Berkeley swivel with a roller action inside the barrel, and that one's probably around 200 pounds breaking strain, which is fine for conger traces. There are, of course, other baits you can use, squid, cuttlefish. Pays to contact the skipper before you travel to the venue, and he'll be able to tell you whether mackerel are being caught in that area. If not, you can take a box of calamari squid, your own cuttlefish, your own squid. But usually mackerel are pretty plentiful.
Probably
the benefit of the butt pad now.
Yeah, it is actually. Just have a little breather while I think. I mean, it's coming up just heavily, but dead. There's probably the day's biggest pout.
There'll be some pout.
Line. First one on record, if it is.
Yeah.
Bit easier now?
Yeah. Be careful where you put your butt pad.
Well, I haven't gone slack or anything, is it?
Most people set them right over the wedding tackle. I think it's a better bet to put them into the groin.
Small eel.
Just a small eel. You want to have him? Yeah. Good. Number 2. It's going to come out clean if he stops. Oh, he's having the scrap now. He's in.
You want to oblige on the way up?
No. Go.
Oops. My finger in your ear, boy.
Well, I'm finding the eels today. Smaller than I would like. I call them average reef eels. Yep. Bye-bye, boy. Yeah. Go back, grow bigger. See you next year. That's actually how I like to present a lot of my bait. Take the tail off to stop it spinning. And a couple of little slices either side of the backbone for a very juicy piece of presentation. Through the mouth, out the top of the head. Stick with a 12-ounce weight. I found that held the bottom fine. Undo all the knitting. Little flick away from the boat and away again. Good rod this. Finding the rollers just starting to squeak a little. I actually use air gun oil inside these joints here, and I find that quietens everything down. I like to control the pace of the descent so that I know my end rig isn't getting tangled up round my main line. I think we're fishing a depth here of about 36 fathoms, which must be something around 200 feet, Rog? It's 36 fathoms, 200 feet?
624, 240 would be 40 fathoms, so yeah.
Yeah. There we are, on bottom.
424, 240.
Ratchet on. Lift the reel out of gear. On a wreck, you need to leave the reel in gear so that when you actually get a fish on the line, you can get it away from the wreckage as fast as possible. On the reef, you can afford to give them a little more time to take the bait more effectively, but again, get stuck in early because you don't want them to swallow the bait. Nice, neat piece of lip hooking is ideal.
Well, our carp friend doesn't seem to be doing too well over there today. With too much luck on the last trip. Yeah, nothing big enough to strike. Yeah.
We're fishing underneath his side of the boat anyway, I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
might have gone underneath it. Well, that's it, that's the thing to do. Let Liam catch all the small ones and then we'll knock out the granddads.
That's it, I'll clear the ground for you, boys. And just the big ones are coming on, I shall do my well. I'm going to rest now. Talk about tackle. There's a small weather front started to come in, but we're okay because we've got our waterproof gear if we need it. However, the wind's picked up a touch and the tide's on quite a run. And if you actually have a look at the way the lines are running from the rods, you can see mine easier because I've got yellow line. We're actually fishing underneath the boat. We don't really like to do that. So one of the advantages of the fact that there's only 4 of us and we're a small party is that we can move around the boat a little bit. So given that option, Roger and I are going to reel in, cast out the other side, and carry on, hopefully congering where the bigger ones might be. Coming up, Rog?
Yeah.
I've got a pound of lead on there, you know, and
Have
it's
you
still not really
rolling?
holding. Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit sludgy, as if I'm off the reef and into the edge of the mud.
You sometimes find your weights on the bottom, but the tide's taking the line. You big bow in the line.
That's
with
right.
Your weight gear still on the bottom.
Yeah,
Like.
that's another advantage of that rig that I'm using, is that the weight is not running up the main line. So there's no chance of that happening.
No.
Cool, tiring.
Yeah, it's a long way down with a pound of lead, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Ugh, come on. Yeah, we're off at daft angles now, aren't we? Look at them.
Times the tide's slack, another hour and a half or so, isn't it?
Something like that now, yeah. Ugh. I came pinging through. Completely untouched by fishy mush. You in?
Baitless.
Baitless. Okay. Well,
Here we are. I thought I
makes
had
me
a
out
few
before you
slow
then.
mocks earlier on.
down again. She in, Tim? think it was just bouncing, but yeah, it was in.
Yeah, it was. He was running away at quite a rate. Yesterday they said it was supposed to be 18 degrees, and
That's right.
we had it about 90 or something. You know, hellish hot. Today it's supposed to be 23 degrees.
Yeah.
I could do with my bloody jumper on.
Nowhere near it, is it?
All right, Paul. Better fish coming in.
Nice, beautiful thing.
Oh, that's a beautiful ling, yeah.
That's better. Probably the easiest way to understand the bite detection, Paul, is just to remember what you felt, isn't it?
Is it another ling?
A bit like our Todgers, mine's bigger. Yeah.
Brave set of teeth on them, isn't it?
Fish of the day coming up here. It's a banger, isn't it? Yeah. How you doing, Peter?
Yeah, still with us?
Just bringing up its dad over here, okay?
Yeah.
That's better, Tim, isn't it?
Yeah. What was on mine, Roger? Nothing. What? Oh, it was a whiting and he's floated back aside here. Whiting? Yeah, it's a whiting floated back.
I don't want to lose this one, Rog. No.
Gone?
He's away.
Liam's got something on here. No, I don't know. Lionel check anything over 10 pounds? That old green stuff you got there?
I have a feeling he might have snagged me.
Are you off the bottom?
Yeah, it should be.
I thought so, but now I'm starting not to be sure.
Better by the minute here.
I ain't sure, lad. I'm not sure.
Anchor ain't coming up, is it?
Gone very steady on me. I think he's wrapped me. Damn it, it's a good fish, Rog.
Was a bite?
It was a good fish. It was an absolute banger. A good banger.
Let him go then.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not very big. There's no pound size. I think they're going to go overboard, to be honest. No, he floated back alongside the boat. Alright, I'm going to drop down and have that one.
I've got to slack for a minute or so. Liam.
Yeah.
Yeah, he may come away.
Yeah.
From the
He was a good banger. Damn, I don't want to lose this.
no, that's the taste.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a better fish.
Come on, bring your qualifier in.
It's coming, I think.
Nice and steady.
Some rally then, get rid of that lever drag.
If it's over £50, it's got a nice little piece of mackerel tucked in corner of its cheek just here. It's the one I dropped.
Not all fish.
You know these carp boys, you know.
Come on. I've been stalking this one for a while.
Absolutely, yeah.
See it down there.
Yeah, strawberry flavoured yoghurt boilie, yeah, with a bit of paprika on the side. Here we go. Yeah.
That's a bit better. Good. That's better, I think it qualifies.
That qualifies him.
Very good.
Puts him in, doesn't it, Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we like to see. Freshwater man come to sea and on his first day become a member of the British Conger Club. Well done, Paul.
Cheers. Pull back out there. I thought I was going to go in there as I was gaffed him. I lost my centre of balance and I was going over the side.
How'd you find the play on that compared to a carp, Paul?
Don't think you need a gaff for this one.
They pull a lot harder.
Yeah.
Right, can the rest of us catch some decent sized ones now that Paul's got his qualifier? Been waiting and waiting for you to catch that one.
Told you I'd get it in the end, didn't
You're shaking fish off here and all sorts.
Excellent. Never throw your rubbish out to sea, of course. Got you. We're game, Paul.
Yep. Not as big as the last one, though. Definitely not. Coming up too easy.
Oh, nice one, Rog. Nearly there. All right.
Just see if I can undo that.
Dancing.
Keep it away from my boots. Going clean. Well, the skipper's called 10 minutes to lines up and we're on the last drop of the day. It's been an excellent day of congering from the reef. 14 fish of 10 to 15 pounds have been returned, and there's a mixed bag of conger and ling over 100 pounds going to be making its way to the fish market tonight. Paul Booth, carp angler, becomes the latest person to qualify for membership of the British Conger Club with a fish that we've weighed at 32 pounds. This will be confirmed at the quay and the appropriate paperwork filled in, and he parts with his cheque. I've had a great day because I think today I just got the edge over Roger Herity. So from myself, Liam Dale, Roger Herity.
10 minutes is a long time in conger fishing. I'll have him yet.
And skipper Tim Courtis. Tight lines.
Going to see him soon, Tim, I should think.
Standing here, it isn't hard to imagine times gone by when this community survived virtually on its fishing and its smuggling. This is Polperro in Cornwall. Rubby-dubby, the system on which all modern shark fishing is based, was invented here. Originally made from mashed fish by mackerel men, Loo, the sharking capital of Europe, took the method to heart and rewrote the history books. The current record for a blue shark stands at 218 pounds, but due to the decline of the species, it is possible that this record may never be broken. The largest catch I can trace was here at Polperro, just after the Second World War, when a whacker of 350 pounds was brought in on a hand line, a major feat of angling. I grew up on this part of the British coastline and was therefore an avid spectator of the sharking fleets of the 60s. There was little knowledge and foresight of the damage being caused to the shark population in those days. I can happily report that the number of blue shark is on the grow again. The average weight of a fish in the 70s was 25 to 30 pounds. Today, it's 40 to 50 pounds. A qualifier for the Shark Club must exceed 75 pounds, and the fish weight must be confirmed at the quayside. I believe the target level should be raised to 125 pounds, and that skippers should be authorised to endorse membership on the £10 per foot ruling, and all catches returned. There are 3 of us fishing for shark on a 2-day trip, and having enjoyed the hospitality of this historic community, it's time to board Ocean Star and experience the one form of angling where the hunter becomes the hunted.
Liquid gold.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah?
50 to 60, yeah.
Oh, it's coming back again. It might be ready this time.
Look all that stuff at the top of your rod, Kev.
Yeah, okay.
He's very, very lively.
He's not ready.
Right.
Let him go.
Not ready.
Let him go.
Yeah,
There she goes.
I've got it.